Now on page 10, chapter or verse 3, it says, unintentional control. However, while social sorting is both an intention and an outcome of many forms of surveillance, surveillance should not be taken to be identical with direct social control. While social control, the strict regulation of personal behavior to order society, can be the intention of surveillance and has been historically. Remember, Skinner says, if you want to alter the behavior of the public, you put something in their environment that wasn't there before. And cameras are everywhere. And you don't behave the same way when you know you're getting watched all the time. You end up looking like George Orwell with no expression in your face, just hands in the pockets and look straight ahead or at the sidewalk as you walk along. But it says here, in most contemporary Western cases, the controlling effects of surveillance are indirect or unintentional. Well, I don't believe that because I've read other articles from government sources, and they're darn well quite happy that it's making people more quieter and orderly and all the rest of it. That you can't be spontaneous, even with your friends, when you're on camera all the time. It says here on 10, I don't know if it's Part 5.3, even border surveillance practices are being privatized. We don't realize that, how the military-industrial complex is in and out of everything. It's all totally interwoven. So even border surveillance practices are being privatized. The evidence is that the outsourcing of state border security to private commercial companies, IT multinationals, major weapons and military hardware manufacturers, consultants, risk analysts, banks, identity management and biometrics corporations is a burgeoning practice. For example, in 2004, IBM won a £15 million contract for Project Semaphore, the first phase of the UK government's e-borders, electronic borders program. Project Semaphore, in a similar program to US VISIT, US Visit, will integrate databases on airline passengers entering and leaving the UK. That's already been done. Together with Project Iris, all these projects, these are all military terms for exercises, you understand? And that's why you've got all these Project Iris, Project Semaphore, Project this and Project that. Is also trialed by IBM. The program will link biometric data to integrated databases that can identify anomalous patterns of behavior. IBM is one example of a vast array of companies who now have a designated homeland security practice offering data management, biometric and identity services to governments. Other notable players are Accenture, 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 which leads the $10 billion U.S. Smart Borders Alliance in the U.S. Oracle, whose ubiquitous identity management systems are now being used by the UK and the US as homeland security solutions, and consumer electronics and telecom companies such as Ericsson, who are contractors for the US Strategic Border Initiative. In many instances, the biometric border schemes are linked to frequent flyer programs of other loyalty cards. Remember the loyalty cards too? They all started off with one's for your pharmacy, one for your supermarket and all the rest of it. And you thought, oh, that's nice, you get a little discount. Do you know that the government started most of those things off to collect your data? So here they are with the biometric border schemes are linked to frequent filter programs of other loyalty cards. And in the US, the trend is moving towards corporate sponsorship by credit providers such as MasterCard. The expansion of privatized ID guarantee, so they're calling it privatized ID guarantee to get you across the borders and all the rest of it, has the potential to render obsolete. So they're going to go around your national debates on ID. They're going to do it by doing it internationally. The expansion of privatized ID guarantee has the potential to render obsolete some of the debates about national ID cards and biometric passports. Then it goes on to talk about social exclusion. The intensified surveillance of urban life also involves powerful processes of social exclusion. This is characterized by the creation of disconnections for those people and places deemed in some way unprofitable or risky. Remember, in this brave new world, you're going to be either a person or a non-person. To be a person, you have to be totally in their system, following all their rules. It says here, crucially then, the new surveillance technologies can thus forcibly slow down certain people's lives, making them logistically more, not less, difficult. Much of the sorting or social sorting by surveillance systems now works automatically. That's without human discretion. Continually, that is 24 hours a day and in real time without delay. Through software. Very often the motivation is overcoming the barriers of electronic and physical congestion facing affluent, privileged or powerful people and places as they confront the challenges of living and operating in dense, urban and increasingly mobile societies which place a premium on networked connections and flows connecting to other places. However, once introduced both access and blockage, that's what they're calling it, access and blockage, and a lot of people get blocked, believe you me, are increasingly policed automatically, threatening a technological lock-in, dividing contemporary societies more decisively into high-speed, high-mobility, and connected and low-speed, low-mobility, and disconnected classes. And then it goes on to say here, everything's monitored. Appropriate policy is especially difficult to define in respect of covert surveillance, where this involves transnational espionage, as with the echelon system, the fact that for official purposes such systems do not exist. For official purposes, such systems do not exist, or are held to be in the realm beyond the law. That's what they'll tell you. Well, we can't do anything about that. It's out of our hands, but they're snooping on you. Or conducted in partnership with the agencies of other states or nations. And it makes a mockery of ideas of choice and consent. You have no consent in any of this, you understand. That's what he's telling you. You have no consent. The UK has a long tradition of secrecy and a blanket assumption of exemption on behalf of the intelligence services. For example, the Intelligence Services Act, the ISA, 1994 specifically allowed the GCHQ, the UK's General Communications Headquarters, to monitor or interfere with electromagnetic, acoustic and other emissions and any equipment producing such emissions, and to obtain and provide information derived from or related to such emissions or equipment and from encrypted material for a wide range of purposes in the interests of national security. They can do anything they want, regardless of any law that you think is on the book to protect you. Anything they want. And all they have to say is in the interest of national security. And everyone's using that one. Every country is using that. The economic well-being of the United Kingdom, or in support of the prevention of or detection of serious crimes. See there again. It's commonly believed that a warrant is required for every specific instance of telecommunications interception, such as telephone tapping. This is true of ordinary police surveillance. However, the ISA actually stated in a particularly cunningly worded paragraph that no entry on or interference with property or with wireless communications shall be unlawful if it is authorized by a warrant issued by the Secretary of State under this section, which does not say that any of the actions mentioned is unlawful unless authorized by a warrant. That's a beauty. Within the meaning of the Act, entry or interface with property or with wireless telegraphy could be carried out lawfully without a warrant. It's all in the wording, folks. I've told you before, everything, even law, especially law, is exoteric for the public and esoteric for those in the know. All in the same written paragraphs. 26. If we are to suggest overall themes, they are that the future surveillance society will be one of pervasive surveillance, primarily directed at tracking and controlling mobilities of all kinds, people, objects, and data, and at predicting and preempting behavior. We also assume that the shift of power from public to private continues. Now you understand when it's all private, you have right now you've not much to say, to be honest with you, because the governments don't work for the public. They never have. That's just been the con game. But that's why you have the private soldier companies like Blackwater that changed their name recently, and other ones too. They're not responsible to the public. If you go to the government and complain about what they've done, they'll say, well, we can't do much. They're a private organization. It's out of our hands. It's not our jurisdiction. Quite wonderful, isn't it? And then they go through other things here with links here on scan systems, different articles and so on. I'll put up a bunch of links tonight for you to look through all of this stuff for those that really want to know. what it's really all about out there. But you've got to also go into the universities as well. You understand academia, and I've read the articles before, academia truly was blended with the industrial war, military-industrial complex back in before World War II, definitely through it. All the universities were working on viral and bacterial warfare for the big boys and various other gizmos and gadgets to kill people. And then the Cold War, they all got in the acts of surveillance and tapping and so on and so on. So academia is a great big part of it. And I was reading a paper recently from a university in Canada where the character they always show you about a first page. It doesn't mean much because he's showing off his vocabulary. That's his little test for his peer group to show you can actually string a sentence together. It's just it's unfortunate they can't put it in a straightforward manner that anybody understands.